Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to be looking at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Inque as Batman Beyond. This is essentially a repaint of the Batman Beyond figure in black and blue colors. Now, Inque is a Batman Beyond villain. She's from both the cartoon and the comic series. She's a shapeshifter. This is when she briefly was posing as Batman. It's from the comics. It only took a couple panels to cover this. So let's go ahead and check out the packaging here. As you can see at the top, 22 points of articulation, McFarlane Toys, ages 12 plus, DC Multiverse Inque as Batman Beyond. Here she is in the package, 2 alternate hands totaling 4 interchangeable hands, and a batarang. You also have what looks like a flight stand and a collector's card. Now this is the first time we received a 6 or 7 inch version of Inque, but unfortunately it's not her traditional look. She's dressed as Batman. Still cool, but I yearn for a regular Inque figure. Hopefully one's coming up soon. One side of the package, Inque as Batman Beyond, from Batman Beyond. Inque as Batman Beyond. The bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case that helps anybody. And on the back side, here he is, and here are a bunch of other new McFarlane DC Multiverse figures you should check out. Shout out to my boy Corey, local collector that picked this up for me at Target. Lots of Targets are getting a display, and it has all the new figures in it. So with no further ado, let's open it up. Here she is, next to the standard version of Batman Beyond. And then, next to both the standard and the Target exclusive Build-A-Figure Batman Joker robot. I'd love to also have the digitized version of Batman Beyond here to compare them to, but I still have to find one for my unopened collection. I only have him loose right now. Alright, now that I have this figure out of the package, here she is with all of her accessories laid out. It does kind of odd referring to this figure as she, because it's a male body, but it is a female figure. Inque is a shapeshifter, and she was posing as Batman. She was actually framing him in Batman Beyond number 50 in the Rebirth comics. Inque here comes with a flight stand, a batarang, 2 alternate hands totaling 4 interchangeable hands, and a collector's card. But before we take a look at the accessories, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. It's really just a straight repaint of Batman Beyond, and this is not the first time they've done that. This is the Batman Beyond that actually has the mouth. Looks pretty good. It's exactly the same, nothing new. I really like the color scheme, the blue and black. It really complements each other nicely. And the wings, they look really cool. Mine are a little bit warped, but that's going to be really easy to fix with hot water, especially when I paint the wings off, which is definitely what I'm going to do. But man, look at that. That looks really cool. As a whole, we do have some blue and black mixed in. I really do like the way that looks. Now, I had mixed feelings on this figure. I thought maybe they should have used the Batwoman Beyond body. Being the Inque's a female, it would look cool, but it's not comic accurate. She was framing Terry McGinnis in the comic, posed as Batman, and that's why she looks this way. It's a very interesting bit of reuse. Yes, McFarlane does the repaints, but this is one from the comics that actually makes sense. At least not doing Neon Armor Batman, Arctic Assault Batman, etc. Inque as Batman Beyond is from Batman Beyond number 50. This is the final issue in this run of Batman Beyond series. Here's the book. I have both covers. You can see Inque on the front there. And inside the book, you can see Inque in her changeling form, and then posing as Batman here. And just a closer look at her head and face sculpt. It's the typical Terry McGinnis Batman Beyond head. And here's the figure broken down as far as she can go, with all of her removable parts detached. This is the first time we've ever really gotten an Inque figure. Long time ago, the closest thing we ever got was an old Burger King toy from Batman Beyond. Kinda wish I had that right now. Now it almost makes more sense to just use this as Terry McGinnis in a different kind of bat suit. But to each their own, it can have 2 different uses. Now let's check out her accessories, and let's start off with the display stand. So the display stand comes in 2 different pieces. It's a transparent flight stand. When put together, it's going to look like this. It's got the large circular base with DC on it, transparent post that goes up. It does have rotation up here. It's also hinged. And then there's this clamp that'll hold the waist of your figure. Here's an example of Inque on the flight stand. Now let's look at our collector's card. As you can see, there's an example of the figure flying in the city. Ink as Batman Beyond for Batman Beyond. The backside, there's a little description. If you want to read that, go ahead and pause now. Here's our collector's card, next to the standard version of Batman Beyond's collector's card. And in case you were curious, here are all the different versions of the Batman Beyond collector's card. This came with the Target exclusive Build-A-Figure version. Here's Ink as Batman Beyond's collector's card, the standard Batman Beyond, and then the digitized Batman Beyond. Those two are identical. Now let's look at her hands. She has a total of 4 of them. 2 have claws out, and 2 are standard. Here she is with her first pair of hands. These are her standard gripping hands. Then, with her other pair of hands, these are her claw-like hands. Terry McGinnis would use hands like this for A for claws and B for climbing. Now let's look at her Batarang. It's a standard Batarang. I like the color scheme, black and blue all over it. Here she is holding and getting ready to throw her Batarang. Here it is, next to the standard colored version of this Batarang. And here are a bunch of other Batman Beyond style Batarangs I've accumulated over the years. Now let's check out her wings. Her wings can expand. They're made of a pretty soft material. They're somewhat sort of bendy here. Now mine are a little bit warped. I should be able to fix that with some hot water. Notice those little tabs on her wings. She can stretch them out, and then she's got a little peg here that'll attach in those holes. Here she is with the wings down, and then with the wings out. And now these wings are permanently attached. They're not intended to come off, but for me that wasn't good enough with the Batman Beyond figure. Terry McGinnis in his Batman Beyond suit very rarely had the wings out. He would only deploy them when he was gliding. 97% of the time he would just have his regular suit on. So if you take some hot water, bring it to a boil, you can easily get the wings out. And here she is with the wings removed. I heated up a cup of water to a boil, dipped her in for about a minute. You can see there's a big hole here. That's about the only negative aspect to take the wings off, but I really like the fact that it can be done. And then 2 birds, 1 stone. I was also able to completely flatten and straighten out the wing set here. Here are the blue wings, next to the standard red wings from the original Batman Beyond release. And here are a bunch of other older Batman Beyond wings. Now they've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and her accessories. Now let's check out her height. From bottom to top of her head, standing at about 7.0 inches tall, which you can translate to about 18 centimeters. And if you go to the top of the ears, about 7.25 inches tall. Now let's check out her articulation. Start with her head here. Of course, it can rotate from side to side. It can look up about that far, down about that far. Can tilt from one side to the other. Shoulders on a ball joint goes up about 90 degrees. Actually, considerably more than that. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. Does have a butterfly joint between the shoulder and chest area. Just increases the range of motion here. Bicep cut below that. Double jointed elbows. His wrist has a ball on it. It can rotate, and it's hinged as well. Double ball joint in the torso. Rotate around, forward and back. Also rotate around at the waist and go forward and back, giving a pretty good range of motion in the torso area. Legs completely does a split, not a ball joint, but a similar type concept. Rotation, about that much. Forward, about that far. Back, not too much. Double jointed knees. And the ankle here can go forward and back. It can rotate, can also tilt and rock. And let's not forget that little bit of toe articulation. Now I wanted to look at this Ink as Batman Beyond next to the standard Batman Beyond to see if there were any differences besides the obvious blue in place of red. And there are not. It's the same sculpt, same articulation. I do like the new paint job, and it's cool to sort of tie it into a villain. Both of these versions have the head sculpt with the mouth sculpted on. That's the version I personally prefer. Here are all 4 different versions of Batman Beyond they've made. From left to right, we have the Target exclusive no mouth Batman Beyond, Ink as Batman Beyond, standard with mouth Batman Beyond, and then the digitized Batman Beyond. And here's the difference between the Batman Beyond sculpt with a mouth on the left and without the mouth on the right. Here's Ink killing a man, specifically doing it on camera, as to frame Terry McGinnis. Terry McGinnis confronts Inque and is understandably confused. Here we have Inque getting the upper hand on Terry, and if you prefer to just use this as a different variation of the Batman Beyond suit, you could have Terry McGinnis here trying to decide which suit to use for this specific mission. Now let's check her out next to some other action figures, starting off with some of the McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here she is next to the standard single Batman Beyond release. This is a straight repaint of this figure. Then, next to the Target exclusive Build-A-Figure Joker Robot, this is the exact same figure except has a different head sculpt. And here, next to the digitized version of Batman Beyond. Looking to get a second one of these to keep unopened. If anyone out there sees one, drop me a line below. Here are all 4 versions of the Batman Beyond that McFarlane has released. Now I definitely don't think they're done reusing this sculpt. I'm almost certain we're going to see an unmasked Terry McGinnis in the Batman Beyond suit in the future. And I think it'd be kind of cool if they made a transparent version, like he was under cloak. Here's Inque next to Batwoman Beyond. 2 different female characters, both in the Batman Beyond suit. Here's Inque next to a couple of other Batman Beyond rogues. We've got Shrink, Inque, and the Joker Batman robot from Future's End. I really hope they give us some more rogues. In particular, I really hope we get a standard Inque in the future. Here's the entire McFarlane DC Multiverse Batman Beyond collection. We know we're also getting Blight to finish off the Joker robot wave. Now I'm guessing that we're eventually going to get a standard Batwoman and standard Blight releases. Really curious if we're actually going to get them, and if we are, what are they going to be? I heard rumors of possibly a Batwoman unmasked, or Batwoman with a blue suit similar to Inque. Fingers crossed that we get something like that, and fingers crossed that we find out soon. In addition to that, there are several rogues I would love to see McFarlane tackle from the Batman Beyond show and comic series. Here are a bunch of different Batman villains. They're sort of Batman, and they're sort of not. I've seen a lot of people make comments about the McFarlane DC Multiverse line. It is so Bat-heavy. Even when they make a villain, it's still Batman. Well, that may be true, but this Inque Batman Beyond repaint actually makes sense and is from the comics. Here are all the different female figures McFarlane has made in their DC Multiverse line. We know we're also getting a Harley Quinn from Birds of Prey, a Catwoman from The Batman, and Batgirl from Gotham Knights. Some rumors of some other upcoming figures. I can't wait to see pictures and find out for sure. Here she is, with sort of the rest of this wave of McFarlane figures. McFarlane doesn't release traditional waves, but all 4 of these figures were found on display at Target, and I've read similar reports all across the country. My buddy picked up this Inque as Batman Beyond, as well as the rest of these 4 figures. Now let's check her out next to some other Batman Beyond figures. Here she is, next to all the different McFarlane DC Multiverse Batman Beyond figures they've made. And here, next to some DC Direct Batman Beyond figures. Then, next to the Mezco 112 Collective Batman Beyond. And here, next to some Mattel Batman Beyond figures. Here's my entire collection of 6 and 7 inch Batman Beyond figures. I believe I have all of them. Here she is, next to my custom version of Terry McGinnis and Max Gibson. Max Gibson was sort of Terry McGinnis' Oracle in the show. And here she is, next to an Old Man Bruce Wayne and Ace the Bat Hound by DC Direct. Now let's check her out, next to some other custom Batman Beyond rogues that I have. I would love McFarlane to make some of these. Here she is next to Spellbinder. Then with a custom Shriek that I bought a long time ago. Then next to a custom Kirari. And here with the Joker's Gang from Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. Now let's check her out next to some action figures from different various companies to see how she fits in both scale and style wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix her with. Since she's a McFarlane figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect and work my way smaller. Here she is with some of her McFarlane Toys brothers and sisters. In front of you are 5 different action figures, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, next to some more McFarlane figures. These ones are from different various video game properties. And now, next to some Jack-specific wrestling figures. And here she is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here, with some NECA figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestling figures. And here she is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here, next to some Mafex figures. And then, next to some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here she is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, here she is, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, she's a pretty cool figure. Whether you plan to use her for ink, or for a different batsuit for Terry McGinnis, I give it 2 thumbs up. It's based off a really well done Batman Beyond figure, and visually this repaint is very pleasing. The accessory's cool, the articulation is excellent, the sculpt is good. The only frustrating thing is I really wish it was a regular ink figure. McFarlane, please give us one of those. They would do an absolutely fantastic job with ink. As it stands, I'm going to rate this figure a 7 out of 10. I'm enjoying it. It's a clever repaint that makes sense. But a regular ink figure, that would probably get an 8.5 or 9 if McFarlane gave it a home run like they usually do. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.